I'm Drew. Welcome back to my sewing room, or welcome to my sewing room for the first time. Today I'm doing something a lot different than what I normally do. I am sewing up a modern pattern, and we are doing Vogue V1941, which is one of their very new releases. And so I want to do this in more of a tutorial style, so that way if somebody chooses to make this, since it's so readily available, they can sort of follow along. A lot of times with my vintage makes, it's just more of me sewing and my thought process and whatever's going on in my life at the time as I'm sewing it, because I know the odds of someone else having that exact same pattern are very rare, so there's no point in doing it in such a tutorial way. So this video, I'm hoping to be more of a tutorial. I'm hoping that it's going to be quick and easy. All I needed was my fabric and a 9-inch invisible zipper, and that's it. For my view, I need 3 3/4, so almost 4 yards of fabric, and I have a little bit over 3. I'm a little bit worried about coming up short, so I'm going to cut out my main pattern pieces, and then those facing pieces I may cut in some different fabric. I'm really excited about it. I think it's going to be fun. I definitely need a fun, easy project after spending the 10 to 15 hours last week I spent trying to recover my lost footage, thanks to Final Cut Pro, going nuts, but that's a whole nother thing. I hope that this is a fun make. I hope that it's a tutorial that is helpful. So as always, thank you all for being here. I really do appreciate it. I want to get straight into the sewing because I would like to get this done in one day or maybe 2 at the most. As always, thank you all for being here. Thank you for your support. Thank you to everyone who contributed to my Ko-fi. I will mention your names at the end of this video. And with all of that said, let's get right into the sewing. I have my fabric. It has been washed and ironed. As I said, I want to cut out my main pattern pieces first, just to make sure I have enough fabric. They are cut on the bias, and so I don't know what is going to happen. I am going to, this time, like I never do, follow the guidelines for how to lay out the pieces, just to be on the safe side, because I am a little bit scared that I don't have enough. The skirt pieces do not have a lengthen or shorten hairline, which was surprising, so we'll see what happens. I'm going to do a size 18 because it said for a 30-inch waist, and so that's what I'm hoping works for me. And I am not mocking this up. Sorry, guys. I usually don't mock up skirts because the worst that can happen is it's too little. Anything else can be, which even that can be altered. I'm going to get this situated. I'm going to look at the pattern layout to make sure I'm getting the pieces laid out right to get the most use of the fabric, and then I'll meet you all right back here. Okay, we're starting with piece number 1, and it has to go this way because of the grain line, and I only need to cut 1. And so I have it laid out, and that's what I'm going to do. Most of the pieces you cut just 1 of, and that is except for piece number 3 because it is the back. So I'm going to get this pinned in place and get it cut out. The only thing I'm going to get all of the big pieces cut out before I work on those facing pieces, because I will face this with just some white cotton, or possibly even some blue cotton or something else if I don't have enough. And you do cut it with the fabric the right side up, which is usually not the case, but in this case it is. And so I'm gonna first just roughly cut away the parts that I don't need, because it's so hard keeping this all on the table. Cutting out this skirt was one of the most difficult things I have done in my sewing journey. The pieces were so big, and it was cut on the bias, and the fabric is really thin and flimsy, I guess would be the word. It shifted and moved a lot, which I think causes trouble a little bit later when things get weird. I really don't like cutting fabric on the floor. I really prefer to use my cutting table, even though it is at awkward height. Someone had asked me a few days ago in the comments about this desk cutting table setup that I have, and I was explaining to them. I sent them the link for this cutting table, but I definitely don't think it was worth the money. But I still prefer to cut fabric here versus the floor. But this is one of those situations where I definitely wish I had of cut it on the floor. And as you can see, I'm using all of the pins. This was a task, and I definitely did run out of fabric, which is what delayed this project so much. So yeah. So we're picking up this project about 2 weeks later. Mistakes were made when cutting out the fabric. I had never really cut out something that much on the bias, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I did not have enough fabric, so I had to order more, and it came. I ordered 2 yards of this. However, this is the original fabric, so you can see the color difference here. But what we're going to do is make it anyway and hope that it looks intentional. So that's the plan. So I still have several pieces that need to be cut out. I think really the only main piece is the back, and I'm cutting 2 of those. And so it's basically going to be light in the front and dark in the back. So I don't know, but I think I'm going to make a top using the dark. Not a bodice like connected, but more of like a blouse. And I think I'm going to use the pattern from my wedding dress for Easter because everybody liked that neckline so much. So if we have enough, that's what we're going to do. And I might even try to mix and match it with the dark and the light and hope somehow that this doesn't look crazy. But yeah, so that's what happened. And Joanne said that this was the same. I put in the exact number off of the receipt to pull this up, and this is what happened. So, I mean, you guys should be used to these type of things on this channel and used to be just rolling with it. And that's what we're going to do. So yes, I am still cutting out fabric, and here I am now. I'm cutting out the back pieces with the new fabric that arrived that is so much darker. I'm using the desk this time, hoping that that would make this a little bit easier, and it did not. My recommendation for sewing this particular pattern, because it's cut on the bias the way that it is, would be to use some heavier fabric, some heavier linen or cotton or something, and cut it on the floor or something, a much bigger cutting table. What you see me measuring out was the fact that they want you to stitch the back pieces, which are pieces number 3, together 1 inch below the notch. But I messed that all up because they also want you to stitch the right front, which is piece number 1, to the back at the right side, 3.5 inches below the notch. And then the left front piece number 2 to the back at the left side, leaving open 5.5 inches from the notch. So it is a lot of weirdness with these instructions. So just pay close attention. Where we're at. 1 needs to attach to 2. 2 is at the top of 1. So this is 2, the left front. And then this is 1, the right front. So it's the 2 notches. So I'm guessing that is here on piece 1, and then over here on piece 2. So I'm going to get my pattern pieces removed and get those pinned in place, and we already have done the center back, and I think this is going to move quickly. I don't think I've ever been so wrong about anything. This did not move quickly. This skirt was not easy to sew. The instructions were very weird. I am not even finished with it right now as I'm doing the voiceover of this footage that I have so far. And there are things that I'm realizing that I'm going to have to go back and redo. So we're going to have to go back and look at the pieces that I have seamed together and make sure that they are measured correctly. The 1 inch and the 3.5 inches and the 5 inches on the certain pattern pieces and all of that I have already stitched together. It is a very, very confusing skirt to put together, I'm thinking, but maybe now that I know what is supposed to be happening, it will be much easier. And so we're gonna get it together and we're gonna get this completed, and this video is going up on Sunday. Okay, so I did make a mistake. This is what happens when you do not read through the instructions carefully. I stitched those pieces 1 and 2 together. Do not do that just yet, or your dress will not have that opening slit thing. You are going to stitch 1 and 2 to the back pieces, so that way the front is still going to be open, and then we'll deal with that part at the notch with the facings and whatnot. So I have to unpick all of this, and then I ended up doing it twice because my bobbin had ran out of thread and I only had some of it stitched, which would have been awesome, but I threw in another bobbin that had navy thread in it already and finished this. So now I have to unpick it, and then we will get pieces 1 and 2 attached to 3, which is the back. So that's the plan. Let me get to unpicking and I'll meet you back here. This is now piece number 2 pinned to the back, and they want you to begin your stitching 5.5 inches from the marking. It's usually just at the marking, but whatever. And so I'm going to stitch that in before I pin on piece number 1 because this fabric shifts a lot. So this is where we currently are, and maybe I did figure some of it out as I went. The last time I picked this project up was over a week ago, so I kind of forgot some of it. I've avoided it, but this is it on the dress form right now. It still looks pretty confusing, but I think I know what I need to do in order to fix it. Go in and just make sure the right pieces are attached to the right place, stopping at the right spot. And so what I'm going to do first is now finish cutting out all of my facing pieces that I have left, which is a lot, and maybe that will help this make more sense. I'm using the dark fabric that we have left over, and yeah, maybe this will make more sense once I get all of the pieces cut out. So these are all the facing pieces, and I wrote on them what number they are. So for view B, we need 4 and 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So we have 4, 5, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So now what I need to do is go back to the skirt and figure out what piece is what piece so we can figure out which one gets sewn how far down, that whole thing. Because there is, the back is 1 inch below the notch. Right front is 3.5 inches below the notch. And left front is 5.5 inches below the notch. So we need to go back and look at the skirt pieces we've assembled and make sure that's done right, and then we can start working on those facing pieces. So this is the back piece, and it is 1 inch below the notch. This is the right front, and it should be 3.5 inches below the notch, which would be here. So I went a little too far. I'm going to take these out and then reinforce right here. And this is piece number 2. I had stitched it wrong, so I had to unpick it, and we're starting over. But it is the left front, and so it will start stitching here, which is 5.5 inches below this notch. So I pinned it just to hold it all together, but it starts here and goes to the bottom. So I proceeded with stitching that seam like you see me doing here the entire time. Like I just had this voice in the back of my head telling me like that this is wrong. Like this is so wrong and this is going to be a disaster and a huge waste of your time. So the first thing you're going to do is stitch piece 12 together, and that's the center back. And then you're going to take piece number 10, which is the lower right front facing, and stitch it to piece number 12. Then you're going to take piece number 11, which is the lower left front facing, and stitch it. So once we stitch these, so then we're going to turn in the seam allowance on the unnotched edge. Press, easing in fullness where necessary. Trim press seam allowance to 3/8 of an inch. So first I'm going to stitch these, and then I'm going to measure out the seam allowance and fold it back and press it. This has been a task. I have picked and sewn and picked and sewn so many times. I am left-handed, but I am so weird about left and right, and I don't understand if it's my right or their right, or I don't think I understand left from right just at all in general, period. This has been so complicated. So now I think I have found the problem. Because the unnotched edge needs to be at the bottom. So when I was moving things around, the notch edge was at the top. So I'm like, okay, it couldn't be in the same place, the right place. But then it's weird how they have the directions because they're for A and B. And so like on some of the illustrations, you'll see notches in places where there really aren't notches because we didn't do that view. This is nuts. I'm going to keep trying though. I think I just figured out the mistake. I really think I just figured out what's going on. Piece number 12, stitch at center back. Center back has 3. My center back only has 2. So therefore, this part of piece 12 should have been center back. So that is what is causing all of the drama. So now I'm going to unpick everything and we're going to start over. So now I am attempting to attach the facing to the bottom of the skirt, and I think that I'm doing it right, but at the same time, I know that I am not doing it right. I thought I found a mistake, but I had found so many mistakes so many times. Yeah, I don't know. So I think I have it all pinned on correctly. All around the borders. I knew, oh no, this was my real center back. I had changed it because I had messed up so many times. So I just matched up the notches, the places I knew it was supposed to be, and then I pinned it. And then we have all of this open here. I know some of it's the waistband where it goes. It has something to do with the way it drapes. I don't know, but we're gonna stitch it down and hope that we did this right, because this is gonna be a lot to unpick if it's not. So let's go. So at this point, I'm just in too deep to turn around, so I just keep going. But I do think a lot of the problem is that my pieces are weird because of how thin and flimsy this fabric was, and cutting it on the bias, how much it kept moving, and then me not looking at the instructions correctly so many times, and it just led to so much confusion. And I never really recovered from that. Like I never really got my confidence back or the joy for this project back. And so it was just completely downhill. I have it all attached. I didn't trim the seams or understitch it yet because I want to make sure that I did it correctly before I do any cutting of that. So I'm going to try and see how the waistband is assembled and like what happens next before I do that. Because if I cut these seams and this wasn't attached right and do all that understitching, then we'll have a serious problem. So I'm going to wait to do that. The next is with right sides up, lap right front over left front, matching centers and notches, based upper and side edges, keeping back free. So this is the left front and the right front, right sides together. And then we pin front to back at sides, stitch remainder of seams connecting with previous stitching. I don't know what the hell it means. So these two pieces are the center back. I know that because they're the darker fabric. This is the left front. That is the right front. I pinned the facing pieces down instead of basting them down, just because I don't know if this is right or wrong or what's happening. So, like, this looks weird to me over here, that didn't go all the way up the way it did on that side, but it was notches that told me that was supposed to do that. This is crazy. Like, it makes no sense. None of it does at all. So now we're gonna try and see what the heck. I think we're supposed to right sides together, put the right front over the left front. So we'll see. So this is the right front lapped over the left front. They said with right side up. So I folded that over, and these notches match up. Everything's looking like it's supposed to, except for when we get here. This doesn't match up. I don't know if it's supposed to. I can't tell from the illustration if it's supposed to or not. I kind of think that it is, but I don't know. I'm going to just stitch this together and see what happens, and then see if there's just some way we can fandangle this into a skirt, even though everything is completely wrong. I didn't even film what that looked like after I stitched it together. Look at this. This is a nightmare. This has been one of the hardest sewing projects I have ever undertaken. This is craziness. And so I think a lot started with my fabric choice. It was too thin and it shifted too much. I'm starting over. I'm starting over with this white fabric that I got on the Atlanta trip. It's heavier. I think it'll be easier to cut on the bias. And I'm getting the pieces cut out, and we're just starting over because I don't know what else to do. The skirt cut out again out of this white fabric. And I paid a little bit more attention to the markings. Like, this is center front, and there's a couple other ones that I didn't include on that situation. So I'm hoping that will make things less confusing. I have my facing pieces here. And so the first thing I'm going to do is get this stitched up. And then hopefully this time things go a little bit better. Mistakes were made again. Once I just finished stitching those together, I was just double checking to make sure that everything was correct. And I cut my fabric out wrong, going the wrong way. And so that's why nothing was making sense. You were supposed to cut the pieces with the fabric up, and I cut them with it down. So with this skirt, the sequence that is on it is actually going to be on the inside instead of the outside. I have none left to fix it, so it is what it is. So we're at the point where everything sort of went haywire last time. It's very early Saturday morning. I'm going to try and get this done today before my kids get up. I have attached the facing and I have understitched it, and I am hoping that I have done this right. So what I'm going to do now is press it and then see what happens. I know this is going to suck having the sequence on the inside. But yeah, that's what happened. I cut it the wrong way. At least I think that's what happened. I'm still not even sure yet if I did or if I didn't, because the instructions are so confusing about what's the left piece and what's the right piece. So we'll figure it out once we get this all pressed. Now they want me to baste these down and then baste and top stitch along this edge of the facing. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so we did that. And now it says, with right sides up, lap right front over left front, matching centers and notches. Baste upper and side edges, keeping back free. So this is where it's helpful, where I put in the center front and labeled my pieces. So I know that number 1 is the right and number 2 is the left. So I know that this goes over top of this, and then I'm going to match up the centers and the notches. And so I also label the center back, so I'll know what to leave free, and I might just have this figured out. I hate to say it, but I think I give up. I have been fooling around with this for forever. I can't figure it out for the life of me. The only thing I know to be true is what's the center back. So I've been trying to move from there and from what's the center front. But why do I have 2 pieces that have center front on them? Like, I'll have to put this on a tripod so you can see what I'm talking about. I have no idea what the hell's going on. I have been messing with this for forever, trying to get it to look like this, and it just won't. The short piece comes over the top. The bottom piece, short leg opening. I don't know if the discrepancy is in the directions or in my brain, but mine just doesn't look that way. It just doesn't. And I think I'm gonna give up. I think this has been like 3 weeks. It has made me miserable. I haven't sewn anything else. All I've been doing is trying to figure this out. I've used 2 sets of fabric, and I think I'm gonna call it. I think I figured it out. Some of the pieces had to be stitched all together, but I don't like whatever it is that happened here. So I think I'm gonna unpick this and tuck this facing in even more. So the slit's gonna be a little higher on this side, but at least I won't have that ruffling that I had right there from whatever I did wrong with my pressing and top stitching here. So I'm going to take this so loose here and raise this up, and then I'll probably just like hand stitch that down and press it in place, add the waistband, and I did this, and I'm so glad to be done with it. Well, almost done with it, and we'll see if that works out. Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. This project was started probably before they started rehearsal for this particular performance. This project was so long in the making. It was so very difficult. It really sort of zapped my confidence that I had gained and my energy and my love for sewing, and just kind of took that away from me. But I was still living life in the meantime, dance recitals and sending my godson off to his 8th grade dance and all of the things. I really just did not realize how much I missed sewing. I had not sewn a thing. This has been just in my sewing room, and it just zapped my energy and everything. Until this weekend, Haley from Haley Marie Vintage and we went fabric shopping in Indianapolis, and that just sort of rejuvenated me. I came home and decided to finish these skirts, and they are complete, and you will see the photos of them in just a second. They are not perfect, but they are done, and I'm glad that I did not quit. I think I'm going to stay away from Vogue patterns for a while, and I definitely won't be trying to do any tutorials on them. I'm sorry that is not what this was. This was pure chaos, but I think this shows a lot of the creative process and how difficult it can be, and finding the time and all of those things that we all struggle with. And so I thought it was still very real and relevant to put this video out, even though I started it so many months ago. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm sorry it's not a tutorial. So we have coming up right now the final photos of the skirts, my wrap up, and the winner of the wedding dress pattern that I was supposed to give away months ago. So thank you all for being here. We did hit 10,000 subscribers. We need to do something to celebrate. The video of Haley and I should be up very, very soon. So stay tuned for that as well. So here's the first of the two skirts finally finished almost 90 days later. I am not sure what I think of them. They are awkward and weird, but I'm just glad that I stuck it out. I'm glad that I got them finished, and they are what they are. So I am back to sewing, and I thank Haley for that. My next video will be coming up very soon, believe it or not, and in it I am going to share the footage of my trip to Indianapolis to go shopping, fabric shopping with Haley, that helped me get my mojo back. As you can see, I don't even know how to film or pose or anything anymore. I feel like it's been so long. But in that video, I will be announcing the winner of the wedding dress sewing pattern, as well as doing another giveaway to celebrate the fact that we did hit 10,000 subscribers. I appreciate you guys for being here and sticking it out with me and not abandoning my channel, even though it's been almost 90 days since I posted. Here is the white version that I do think I like better, raising the hemline and the slits a little higher, and it's a little shorter, and it is what it is. Major thought that I looked wonderful, and she thought it was perfect for twirling, and I enjoyed it, and I enjoyed this moment. I enjoy you guys, and I'll see you in the next one that's soon and sure to come.